Are you ready to learn? Because my super experienced guests are ready to share some really valuable information. Make sure and listen all the way to the end to get help and support. So let's start with the best audio experience.
Hello everyone and welcome to our show. Today we discuss about marketing mistakes, how you can learn from them, how you can avoid and go ahead with the right strategy. I'm so excited to discuss this topic with Andrea Wilson Woods. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to learn about mistakes. It's my live topic because, I we chatted a little bit about mistakes. I do a lot of mistakes. For me, it's hard to count all of them. But if I learn from others, I can avoid some mistakes. Of
Yeah.
course, it's impossible to avoid everything, as Elon Musk shared about that. If you don't do mistakes, that means you are not innovative enough. So yeah, it's the part of the strategy, but we can learn how to avoid some of mistakes. Andre, before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and why you decided to share with us about marketing mistakes.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that enthusiastic welcome in the morning. I am an author, I'm a podcaster, a patient advocate, an entrepreneur, and a speaker. And I am the CEO and co founder of Cancer University, which is a health tech startup. And I'm also the president and founder of Blue Fairy, the Adrian Wilson Liver Cancer Association. And that is a national nonprofit organization that I founded in memory of my sister after she died from stage 4 liver cancer. And I'm the author of Better Off Bald, A Life in 147 Days, which is a medical memoir that tells that story of raising my sister in my 20s when she was just a small child, raising her through my 20s until she was diagnosed, like I said, with stage 4 liver cancer at the age of 15. And I learned a lot about marketing, the good and the bad, during the process.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Sorry for this loss. I know how cancer is terrible. I have some specialists in my team with cancer. Yeah, it's very terrible. They're young, and yeah, it's hard. So I'm not good expert with that, but yeah, it's terrible. But that's good that you can learn how to live with that, how to avoid it, and. Can you tell about marketing mistakes? Your list. Share your list of marketing mistakes that you did and what you've learned from them.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you might have to stop me because I could talk for like, an hour on this. Well, I'll talk about, if you don't mind, first, just sort of 4 tips, general tips that I always give that I think are pretty normal, but it doesn't seem like every writer does them. And the first tip I would recommend is to read and read and read some more. And every now and then, like, I come across a writer who doesn't like to read, which kind of boggles my mind. So,
Yeah.
you need to really read and read in the genre that you're publishing in, really understand the market and what else is out there. Number 2, you got to write a great story. I think it's really interesting because a great story will trump bad writing any day of the week. There are a lot of great stories, but if you actually read the book and you have any sort of sense of editing, you get frustrated because you see all the mistakes. But for most people, that doesn't matter. What really matters is a great story. And that leads me to number 3, edit, edit, edit. You have
Yeah.
to edit. And again, I get sort of just stunned by writers who don't believe in editing. Even the very famous Anne Rice, author of the Vampire series and many other series, at a certain point, she had enough fame where she decided she no longer wanted an editor. And as a result, her books got much worse because you are too close to the material. So it's really important that you have an outside editor. And then number 4, which really leads into our topic, is you've got to sell. I mean, it's part of being an author. If you actually want to make a living, you need to sell your book. And no one knows your book better than you do. So that
Yeah.
leads to my very first mistake. I love marketing. I love all that. Like, I really relish it and enjoy it. But since this was the first time I was publishing a book, I hired a marketing team. And that was my biggest mistake. Hiring a team to actually help me with the production of the book, getting it out there, designing the cover. That was a good move, I
Some
guess I
benefits.
should say. Yeah, that was good. So I do recommend that you have a team, but before you hire a marketing team or a PR agency, take a step back, because I spent a lot of money and time with this marketing push, and it didn't do very much for book sales. It didn't do very much at all. And in fact, I found out and realized really quickly that I knew my book better than this marketing team did. So I always recommend, unless someone else is paying for it, unless you have a major publisher behind your book, don't hire a marketing team. Wait. I know an author right now that's doing that this week, and I would say hold back, because you can sell your book. You can do it.
Yeah, nice. Love it. Yeah, I agree with that. By the way, I always tell my clients, you need to understand marketing. If you want to be successful, if you want to get high results, when you hire marketing agencies, specialists, experts, you need to understand. Because if you don't know basics, how any marketer can help you? It's impossible. But when you understand, you can handle the process, you can give the right tasks, you can go ahead together like a cohesive team. So yeah, I agree with that 100%. You mentioned a few times about your book. Can you give a strong reason, for example, for me and my audience, why we need to read this book? What kind of benefits we can get by reading this book?
Yeah, so you have to love nonfiction and you have to love memoir. It is a medical memoir. It's pretty heavy in the medical terminology, but I would say the best reason to read my book, Better Off Bald, and I'm just going by the reviews, is that I think it will really inspire you. My sister was an incredibly remarkable person. I don't know any adult that would have handled cancer as well as she did. And she seemed to understand, and I don't know how, but she really did know that she didn't have a lot of time left. And so she took that opportunity to make all of her dreams come true. And she really did it. It was everything that she did was her idea. So she, for example, and keep in mind she was 15, she met her favorite musician, Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction. She met him twice. And both times
Nice.
she really made that happen. She got to meet Jay Leno on The Tonight Show. She, got to do all these activities. Some were really small, whether it was going to a particular restaurant she had never been to, and some were really big, like meeting Dave Navarro. But she did everything she possibly could in that very short amount of time that she had left. And I think so much of the time we wait, we put off doing things that would bring us a lot of joy. And we wait because it's like, well, we'll have time to do that later. We'll have time to do that next year. We'll have time to do that 5 years from now. Well, the truth is, we don't know when our time is up. We do not know. So I'm not saying go out, like spend every penny that you have in the bank tomorrow. But if there is something you've really wanted to do, don't wait to do it. Find a way
Nice.
to do it now.
Very encouragement. Yeah, I agree 100%. And by the way, I check out a few studies that 70% of people hate their jobs. Guys, if you hate your job, leave it and you will never regret, because it's better to find what you love, where you enjoy your time. And because we spend like half of our life in our jobs.
Yeah.
So you need to enjoy, you need to love the process. For example, I can work 12 hours a day and it doesn't hurt my feeling because I love it. I can work on Sunday, on Saturday because I love what I do. So very encouragement. I agree, Andrea. Okay, let's talk about your checklist, how to promote your book. What kind of marketing do you use? Because we have many different types of marketing, and I see when book offers usually they try to cover a lot of aspects, but it's not a good idea, because you can't be successful everywhere and you can lose attention. For example, when I decided to grow my social media channels in 2020, I try to cover Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, everywhere.
You were everywhere.
Yeah, and I got like 5 followers a day, 100 views, the best my result. But then I switch my all attention to LinkedIn, and it has helped me to grow my audience. I think many people they copy like Gary Vee, any other entrepreneurs, but they have a team. These specialists have a team who can help them to cover all social media. So I think it's better to pay attention to one direction. Can you tell about your loving direction and why you have it?
Yes. Oh God, I'm so glad you brought this up because people do think they have to be everywhere, and that's not really possible. So I always recommend sort of 3 things with social media, regardless of what you're marketing. So one, only pick two to really focus on. It doesn't mean that you don't have an account somewhere else. So for example, I have a Twitter account, but I don't like to tweet. But I do have it to hold my name so that nobody else has my name. It's my Twitter account. And I even have in the profile of my Twitter account, I don't really tweet, hit me up on LinkedIn. So choose 2. And when you choose those 2, really think about, do you like spending time on that platform?
Yeah.
So I mentioned Twitter, and I did some early Twitter promotions for my book, which, didn't really make sense because I don't like being on Twitter. So I did these Twitter promotions. I knew that some of my audience would be there, especially doctors. But, I don't like spending time on Twitter. So it really was truly a waste. I can't trace back any of that marketing on Twitter to book sales at all. So, if you don't like being on a platform, maybe you just shouldn't be there. So pick 2. Pick platforms you like. And 3, you do need to know where your audience is. So, for example, I understand the power of TikTok. I get it, man. And I have my name on TikTok, and I have that account, but I don't know that my audience is really on TikTok. And also, I don't love being there, So again, you got to know where your audience is and narrow your focus. If I could go back and do things differently, I wouldn't do any promotion on Twitter whatsoever. And I would have actually done more promotion with Instagram because Instagram has a very active book community. It's like, there's a word for it. It's like bookers on Instagram or book. Anyway, it's a community where there are a lot of readers. A lot of people will review your book. And I was getting tagged in posts without even realizing it because of the community that lives on Instagram. So if I could go back, that's what I would do differently. As far as personally, what I love the most, I'm like you. I love LinkedIn the most, hands down, just across the board when it comes to generally promoting whatever I'm doing and connecting with people.
Nice, love it. By the way, we have the comment. Someone he's working with his wife, her wife, and he can't quit the company probably. Interesting, man.
Okay, that's so really funny.
yeah, it's family issue. What we can do? Just find. By the way, I remember when Dale Carnegie wrote about that. If you need to work, if you can't quit your job, so find how you can enjoy it. You can cheat your mind, set up the right mindset that you love it, find create some competition with yourself and go ahead. So yeah, it's possible as well. Okay, you mentioned about editing. Can you tell about editing? I know that book authors usually have a few editors, not one. For example, when I create website content, I have only one editor. If I post on social media, I have no any editors because I have no time,
Right.
to cooperate with them. But book, I think it demands editors. Can you tell how to find responsible editor and how to give the right task to them? Because they can change your, I don't know, like the meaning or change tone of voice, anything. Yeah, more about that.
Yeah, of course. I think it was Mark Twain who said, it's not what you put in the book, it's what you leave out of the book. And that's really critical. So there are 3 sort of main levels of editing. There's content editing, where someone's going to go through and really rework the content. And, a professional writer who's been around a long time, who has a lot of experience, might not need that level of editing. But if it's your first book, you probably should have a content editor pretty early on. The next level of editing is line editing, and that's where you're going through line by line. And now you're more looking at, sentence structure. Does it work? Does this paragraph make sense here? And then, it kind of goes down. Think of it like really broad and then narrow. Then there's copy editing, and that's where you're looking for mistakes, consistency, and style, how the book is, even laid out. And the very, very last step is proofreading. And proofreading is just that. I think everybody knows what that is. It's very, very basic, looking for spelling errors, grammatical errors, but you're not necessarily going word by word or actually changing content. At the very minimum, every person should have a proofreader. And, and I also recommend that if you have your first draft, reach out to people who would be your ideal readers and or whose opinion you really trust. So with what they call a shitty first draft, I had 6 readers go through my first draft. And they had very different levels of experience. Some of them were writers too. 2 of them were my mentors. One person was, I knew she was my target audience, so I just wanted her feedback. And then I took all of that feedback from those 6 readers and rewrote my book for the second draft. And it's not that every single comment that one person made a difference, but when 3 or 4 people are noticing the same thing, then that's a problem area in your book. But at the very minimum, hire a proofreader, and don't go on Craigslist and don't pay $50, because really you get what you pay for in this world, especially there. And I used to do editing on the side for other people, and I had a few friends who wanted me to edit their books, but when I gave them my price, which was reasonable and even maybe a little less because they were my friends, they balked. They said it was too expensive. And so they went the cheap route, and it shows. I mean, it's so frustrating when you read a book and you're really enjoying it, and you get, like I said earlier, distracted by mistakes. I mean, my book went through so many levels of editing and proofreading that a friend of mine asked if he was still in my book, because he was a very, very minor character. And I mean, by the time the book was ready to be published, I said, I don't know, man. Like, I couldn't even remember if he was in the book, because he was such a minor character. And I'm like, did we edit that out? I don't know, So, that's how many rounds of editing and proofreading you should go through. And it's so disheartening when, you see someone that has a lot of potential, but they didn't go the extra mile. And what's really interesting is even writers who are published by the big presses, often they don't have in-house editors anymore. Often the editing and proofreading is still up to that author. And the pros, they do it. They do it.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, interesting about that. Okay, let's talk about actually writing. Can you tell how to improve writing skills? You wrote a book, you have this experience. If someone wanna write their books, can you tell how to improve writing experience? Because I see when people, many content creators don't start, because they can't create awesome context. They feel that it's not good, it's boring. And even more, I check out a few studies that people actually read 5% of books in most cases, because many books are great, when you have the problem with sleeping. You can read them and sleep well all night, don't remember anything. Tell about your methods of keeping attention, retaining audience, sharing stories, anything about writing.
Anything about writing. Well, to write, you just have to get started. So Julia Cameron wrote this very famous book called The Artist Way. And in that book, she recommends doing what she calls morning pages, where you write 3 pages. And you're not writing necessarily to produce any specific content. It's to really open up your creativity. So if you're brand new to writing, I would say start there. Get a journal and write 3 pages every day. And don't think about it. Don't judge it. Just write whatever comes to mind. So that kind of gets your brain and your creative juices flowing. So that's where I would start. If you want to get better at writing, you need to learn, and you need to learn from experts, and you need to go out there and get help. So one of the early things that I did was I did this incredible writers program at UCLA, and it was a 4-day very intensive course, but it really helped me. It changed the structure of my book. I mean, in those 4 days, I realized I wanted to write the book in a completely different way than I had initially. It was so helpful. So you have to continually improve your craft. You have to continually, go to workshops. And now in this post-COVID world, it is so easy to find workshops online. It is so easy to get feedback. And also a writer's group. So if you can form a writer's group, and I'm not saying this is not easy to do, but if you can form a writer's group of, probably 5 to 6 people, other writers at your level or above, and, where you constantly are holding each other accountable. So I recommend that as well. And those are 2 ways just to get started.
Yeah, exactly. I got this piece of advice from Jack London, and he wrote awesome books 100 years ago. I love them. Actually, when I read any of his books, I can't stop it. I can read 6 hours, 8 hours. I don't need to eat. I don't need to drink, because everything what I have, just this book, I can feel that I am part of the story, And he mentioned, I don't remember, probably that was Martin Eden, about the author who wrote with consistency. Nobody believed that he can achieve any results, and with his perseverance and consistency, he overcame everyone, all educational people. That's why I completely agree with you about acting more than, of course, you need to read. You need to read. You need to learn from others, but acting, doing is more important. Yes. Yeah. And for example, it's the same, I don't know, to read 100 books how to play soccer. If you don't play,
that's a good analogy.
I don't know how you can achieve any results if you don't play. Yeah, you can be a sofa expert, to tell how others can play badly, but you need to actually play. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about social media. Can you tell about your methods of creating content on social media? For example, if you, I often see when content creators usually sell. They don't care about achieving high engagement, but nobody cares about sales. They want to get value first. Tell how you promote your book by sharing value, helping others, supporting, create a post, and to submit call to action to your book.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. So I don't promote my book as often now. It came out, it's 3 years ago, actually, this month. So I don't promote it quite as often, but I do use social media to test content for my next book. So one of the things I love to do, especially with LinkedIn, is I will just post a little excerpt from the book I'm working on now, and see what the comments say, and see what the feedback is, both good and bad, and see what that level of engagement is. And it's interesting to see what content resonates and what doesn't. My only warning about that is take it with a grain of salt, because you're putting something out there for a huge audience, and they might not be the target audience who would actually read your book, but I do like to test content. The other thing I recommend, and it works really well with social media, is a Goodreads giveaway. So a lot of people found my book because I have done multiple Goodreads giveaways over the last 3 years. I try to do 2 a year, and Goodreads makes it super easy. It's not that expensive, and you can do it there. And there's the cheaper version, which is less than $150. There's the more expensive version where they actually put your book in their newsletter and push it out there. I've done both, You can give away paperbacks or Kindles. I've done both. And that's a great way to just build awareness and get your book out there, and also get it in front of people who will actually read it. Goodreads is a great community, and it's not technically a social media channel, but for authors, you better have a Goodreads profile. You better be active there, because that's where a lot of people will find your work. Again, Instagram is great for creating content. And the thing with Instagram, right, you always have to say link in bio. Well, make sure the link in your bio is a link to your book. Make sure you are getting people there. Another strategy some authors use is to give away the first chapter of their book. And I think that can work really well. But again, at the end of the day, you have to decide, are you driving people to your website? Are you driving people to Amazon? What are you driving people to do? What do you want them to do? What are the next steps? If your book is true, let's say business nonfiction, as it is for many people in your audience, then you can link that call to action, right, to something else. Maybe you sell a course, or maybe you sell a service, or maybe you sell software. So the book really itself can become a lead magnet if you choose to go down that path.
Yeah, love it, valuable. Okay, you shared about top mistakes. Can you tell what book authors should do? For example, we know mistakes, we can learn from them, but what is a must-have from your experience?
For marketing your book?
Yeah.
I think that you have to decide you want to sell your book. I know that sounds really basic, but most authors don't want to do marketing. They just want to hire an agency. And as I mentioned at the top, no one knows that book better than you do. No one. And it's okay to sell your book. Like, I think there's a reluctance to do it because maybe you don't know how, or there's this reluctance like, oh, I don't want to be promoting my book. Well, don't you want people to read it? Didn't you write it so people would actually read your book? And if that's what you want, then the onus is on you. It's on you, the author, to be out there talking about your book. I'll give you an example. So when my book first came out, I was going back to Los Angeles, which is where I used to live and where I raised my sister. And I was going back, and I had just gotten off the plane. And I was going to my old wine bar. So I knew people there. They knew I was coming, and they hadn't seen me in over a year. And I brought a bag of books to the wine bar. I did. I was like, why not? Why does that hurt? I sold all 10 books, for cash, full price, because those people knew me. But, I came with the actual book in my hands. I didn't, go to the wine bar and say, hey, check out my book. Here's the link. I came with the book in my hands, and people couldn't really say no, and I didn't force it on anyone. In fact, one person bought several books for members of his family. So, you just have to be creative, but also realize that, there are these opportunities where you can sell your book, and you should take advantage of them.
Yeah, love it. Let's talk about patience and perseverance. Once I read interesting story from book author, and she shared a letter that she got from other book author, and on this letter she got the message. For example, the author couldn't sell his books. He spent a lot of time to sell books, but he couldn't achieve any results. Yeah, and he asked about help, what he can do, how to go ahead. And she replied to him, leave it, forget about that. It's not your direction. If it hurts your feeling, you don't need to do it. Find something else. But if you can't live without that, just go ahead. Be patient, perseverance. And we know that many book authors can't achieve results from first attempt, second attempt. Even Joe Rowling, yeah, she was denied many times. Can you tell about patience and perseverance? Because it's hard to get results from first book or first draft. Your advice with patience and perseverance.
Well, my gosh, you have to persevere. You have to be persistent. Calvin Coolidge has a great quote about nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. And it
Mm-hmm.
goes on, he says, talent will not, genius will not, education will not. It's persistence and determination alone. And to give your audience a more specific example, so I started writing my book, doing research in late 2002, just doing like basic research. I started actually writing the book in 2006, and I finished the first draft in August of 2008. Um, and then I slowly started working on the second draft after I got that feedback from those 6 readers I mentioned before. And it was another like 4 years before I had the second draft done. And I started working with an editor. And then a lot of things happened, life things, all kinds of things happened. And so, what ended up at the end of the day, so first draft, 2008, second draft, 2012,
Mm-hmm.
the book was published in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So, from the time I started doing research, the time my book was published was 17 years.
Yeah.
I mean, but it was something I couldn't let go of. I couldn't let go of. And so I just reminded myself I would be able to get it published when the timing was right. And I had to keep working on it. I had to persist. So I can't track the number of hours it took that I put into my book. I have no idea. But I never gave up on it. I never, ever gave up on it. And then when the time came, I made sure that I did, hire a team to do those things that I didn't want to do. Like I said, marketing, I think, is on the author at the end of the day, but there were a lot of production elements that I did not want to deal with because that's not my area of expertise. So I think you also
Mm-hmm.
need to know your lane, what you are good at, what you're not good at, what you enjoy doing, what you don't enjoy doing. But if you want to make money from book sales, and I still do every single month, you have to fall in love with marketing.
Yeah, love it, love it. Okay, I have the question about, for example, let's imagine you started from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills, anything.
Right.
You wanna write a first book, and your goal to achieve results that I can see on your LinkedIn, your awards, page turner award winner 2021, best non-fiction book, writers
Yeah.
digest self-publish a book award winner 2020. So yeah, if your goal to achieve all these rewards that you have right now, what will you do today differently to write your first book?
The actual writing process or the marketing
Yes,
process?
research, writing, anything. What would you
uh,
change?
what would
Yeah.
I change? With the writing process, I wish I'd been more disciplined. Again, the
Mm-hmm.
timing all worked out the way I feel like it was supposed to, but I wish I'd been more disciplined. When I'm in that zone, I can be very disciplined, but I'm not as consistent as I would like to be with my writing, and that includes working on my next book. I need to be writing every single day, even if it's only a page. I need to be writing
Yeah.
every day. And some writers write based on time, and some write based on word count. That's totally up to you. But you really, need to think about what can I do every single day? If it's 30 minutes, am I trying to get to 500 words? You just have to really commit to doing it. As far as marketing, one mistake I made, oh my goodness, that I would never make again, that I learned the hard way, that was expensive, was
Mhm.
I now tell people, do not ship your book unsolicited to people.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
don't ship your book to, it doesn't matter whether they're a celebrity or not. You don't just send your book to somebody. They have to want your book. And if you
Yeah.
ask and they say yes, then it's fine to ship your book. But I spent a ridiculous amount of money shipping my book to people who never asked for it. And I'm pretty sure those books just ended up on eBay because my book is always for sale on eBay. um, so, don't do that. And I learned the hard way. One, I didn't see results from it. And two, I am now on the other side of it. And I think because I'm a podcaster, and we have this, part of the program where people can talk about their books, I get books all the time sent to me, unsolicited, books that I didn't ask for, that I didn't want. And I hate to say that they are, sitting on a shelf, behind me, just stacked up, because I didn't ask for these books. I don't know who these authors are.
Yeah.
And I have other books that are my priority. I do read every single day. I don't know how as a writer you don't read, but I mean, I read every single day without fail. And I love reading. But yeah, don't ship your book to unsolicited people. I would say one more thing, if you don't mind me adding, you've got to let reviews go. Don't get offended by reviews. Just be thankful someone took the time to review your book. And there are going to be reviews that if you're just a, regular person with feelings, that might, hurt you. And you just got to let it go. Your book's not going to resonate with everyone. Not everyone's going to give it 5 stars. You're going to get 1 stars, and you can have all the awards in the world. My book has won many awards, and I'm really proud of that. But that doesn't mean everyone's going to like it, and that's okay. Just be thankful someone took the time to give you a review.
Nice. I remember when Seth Godin shared that he stopped reading reviews on his books from 2011, so more than 10 years. He doesn't read any reviews because he understands. Yeah, he understands that someone can't understand the meaning of this book. It's not book for everyone. In marketing, we have interesting quote: "If you sell to anyone, you sell to no one."
No one. Yeah.
So it's better to find your audience, to share with them, to ship to a relevant audience. And if someone doesn't understand, doesn't like, that's okay. Even Harry Potter has 2% of
negative reviews.
Star reviews. Yeah. And I read some of these reviews, and people share that's the worst book ever written, Yeah.
Well, so I heard this thing once I thought was really brilliant, with books, so you can have, there are sort of 3 things with books. You can have critical acclaim, win lots of awards, positive reviews. You can have sales, where you're actually selling books, or you can be a New York Times bestseller. And being a New York Times bestseller doesn't mean you necessarily have a lot of book sales. It's actually quite political. So of those 3 buckets, it's really hard to get all 3. So you need to choose 2. Choose 2. And for me, I knew that I did not have the influence or the connections to necessarily become a New York Times bestseller. So I let that go. So my priority was, 1, I wanted my book critically to do well and be well received by physicians. That was really important to me, because if physicians liked my book, if they liked my book, they would recommend my book. So that was priority number 1 for me. Then priority 2 was to sell my book. And with those priorities in hand, I'm happy to say things have really worked out. Now, I'm not a New York Times bestselling author, but that's okay, because my book has been a bestseller in multiple categories, in categories that are appropriate for my book. And that's fine. And I'm also really proud of the awards it has won. So you do have to decide pretty early on what your priorities are going to be. And it's okay if your priority is just to sell books. That's fine. But then you know how to shape and, and where your efforts should go when it comes to marketing. And by the way, I want to say the comments are kind of interesting over here. There's someone says you cannot cheat on your wife. And I would say, well, you can cheat on your wife, but perhaps you should not cheat on your wife.
Yeah. He's funny.
Yeah. There's a story. Write that story,
Yeah.
Write that story. And I would also say a lot of advice you hear over and over is write what you know. Well, that doesn't work. I mean, when you look at someone like Stephen King, is he writing what he knows? Because his first really successful breakout book was Carrie. So a teenage girl who has the power of was it pyrokinesis or something? And what did Stephen King know about a teenage girl with those powers? So I would say, write what you're really passionate about, because then you'll sit back down and you will keep returning to it and you will keep writing about it. So write what you know isn't always the best advice.
Love it. I agree 100%. Andrea, it's a big pleasure to get my show, to learn from you. Tell our audience how they can reach out to you, learn more about you, follow you, and buy your book.
Well, just to reach out to me, go to AndreaWilsonWoods.com. That's pretty simple. That's kind of my home base. Personally, to get my book, go to betteroffbald.com. And there's a list of all the sellers across the world there. And you can also buy it personally from me if you'd like it autographed. And then for my two companies, Cancer.University is my health tech startup. And we have a free platform for cancer patients and caregivers. And then if you hopefully are not, but if you or a loved one is suffering from liver disease or liver cancer, please go to bluefairy.org.
Nice. Guys, you can find all these links in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. A big pleasure. Welcome back anytime to share more value. I love it, guys. You need to follow Andrea on social media. You need to read these books. You need to open this website because it's awesome and you can see a lot of value. Okay, guys, love you. See you.
Thank you.